Should you buy the Logitech G920 in 2025? So a few weeks ago I picked up this Logitech G920 to play some casual racing games on my Xbox. So now that I've had some time to test this wheel and formulate some opinions, in this video we're going to take a closer look at this driving wheel, and I'm going to give you my overall opinion on this very popular beginner driver wheel from the perspective of someone that's new to this hobby. So if you were looking at buying the Logitech G920 or G29, then hopefully this video will be useful. The Logitech G920 was released 10 years ago in 2015 for the PC and Xbox One platforms. Logitech also released the G29, which is a very similar wheel with some slightly different button placement, but for the PS4. Now, even though the G920 released 10 years ago for the Xbox One, which is now a last generation console, you'll be happy to know that it actually works perfectly fine with the current gen Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, as well as PC, and that's the same for the G29 that now works with the PS5. So compatibility with current gen consoles isn't an issue. Now currently, in terms of pricing for the G920, on Amazon you can buy the wheel pedal combo for about £170, and the shifter is actually sold separately for an extra £28. So altogether you're going to be spending around about £200 for a brand new Logitech G920 with pedals and a shifter, which isn't actually that cheap. So what I'd recommend is what I did and buy it secondhand. So I paid about £120 for the wheel, shifter and pedals. And because this wheel's been out for 10 years, there's absolutely loads of them on the used market. That's gonna be my recommendation. Now in terms of specs, the G920 is a gear driven wheel as opposed to some of the newer wheels which are direct drive. It offers 2 Nm of force feedback as well as 900 degrees of rotation. The wheel has 15 buttons including paddle shifters, so you can navigate the Xbox menu easily without a controller. The build quality of the wheel is surprisingly good, with the base being made out of plastic, and the wheel itself is actually made out of what looks like brushed steel wrapped in leather. The flappy paddles are also made from brushed steel and feel clicky and satisfying to use. Moving down to the pedals, there are 3 of them: accelerator, brake and clutch. The accelerator is the lightest of the 3 pedals and in my opinion the most disappointing. It gets the job done and it's fine, but it would have been nice if it had a slightly heavier spring. This isn't a massive issue because you can actually switch out the spring and put a slightly heavier spring in if you want. Moving over to the brake pedal, I actually quite like the feel of the brake pedal. It's shorter travel and more resistance, and I think it feels absolutely fine. The clutch pedal feels good. It's got more resistance than the accelerator, and in my opinion this is what the accelerator should have felt like. Finally, we have the shifter. In my opinion this shifter is absolutely fine. There are 6 forward gears and a reverse, and gear changes are surprisingly satisfying. It feels clicky and mechanical. This is just a quick interruption reminder. If you are enjoying this video, be sure to drop us a like and consider subscribing. We're on the road to 12,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. And to let me know in the comments section below what your opinion is on this driving wheel. Anyway, let's get on with the video. We're now going to take a look at how to set up your G920. So you first of all have to connect everything together, and the underside of the wheel is where this all happens. Wire the shifter cable to this socket here, marked with a shifter icon, and do the same for the pedals and power cable. There are these grooves you can use to direct the cables out the back of the wheel. In terms of mounting, there are these 2 clamps you can use to clamp it to your desk. These 2 large screws are used to tighten the clamps. Or these 2 screw holes you can use to screw it down to a virtual cockpit. And when these are tightened down, the whole thing feels fairly sturdy. The shifter also has a similar mounting mechanism with 2 screws to tighten the clamps. But there's also a 3rd underside clamp to add some extra stability. The base of the pedals has a number of rubber feet, but in my experience they're not the grippiest. If you do decide to use this on carpet, there are some rather scary carpet spikes. There's this release button and they just fling forward. Interesting. Just some quick tips for setting up the G920. First of all, you want to make sure your desk is nice and stable. Otherwise, the wheel's just going to be moving around the place and it's going to be less of an immersive experience. The same is true for the pedals. You want to make sure they're completely just fixed to the ground. Otherwise, every time you brake or accelerate or change gear, they're going to be moving around. It's just going to be a very uncomfortable experience. So before you start playing, make sure all the gear is just solid. And that also applies to the chair. If you've got a wheelie chair, you want to make sure the wheels are locked, or just use a chair without wheels. My second tip would be to play with a good amount of sound, either with headphones or some good speakers. As I've already mentioned, the accelerator's a bit floppy. There's not a huge amount of resistance. It's quite hard to gauge how much throttle you're actually using. So when I've been playing, I've actually been using the sound of the engine to gauge how much throttle I'm actually using. So I found it quite helpful to have a good game sound. And I usually race with headphones on, but that's my personal preference. So you finally set up your G920 and you're in a game. The question is using a G920 better than just using a controller? Now the short answer is yes, using this wheel is much more immersive than just using a controller. So the first question you're probably wondering, and I was definitely wondering this before I picked up this wheel, and it's whether or not 2 Newton meters of force feedback is enough. And in my opinion, yes it is. You do actually feel the wheel wrestle against you as you try and turn around corners, and it is a significant amount of force. 2 Newton meters is a realistic amount of force for most racers. The only exception might be F1. Now I'm not someone that's ever been racing in real life, but if I were to put my BMW in sport mode and drive it around some windy B roads, then the force in the steering wheel from the real life BMW would actually be less than the force delivered from this G920. So my opinion would be, for casual racing games, then this is definitely enough. Another feature of this wheel is the 900 degrees of rotation, which for most racing games is more than enough. The only exceptions may be drifting games, or if you want to use the wheel for something like a truck simulator. They're the only examples I can think of where 900 might not be enough. Another feature of this wheel that some people might be concerned by is the fact that this is a gear-driven wheel, and they're notoriously quite loud. But in my opinion, the sound hasn't been an issue. Here's a sound test. So before we come to any conclusions, we're going to do some live gameplay and I'm going to give you my thoughts. This is a bit of a controversial racing game, but we're going to be playing some Forza MotorSports, just because it's what's on Game Pass on my Xbox. And as you can see, even after like a week or so of using this wheel, I'm not amazing. I'd probably get a better lap time with the controller. So what I would say is, initially when you do get a wheel, don't expect to be amazing with it. It's going to take a bit of practice. Initially you'll be worse than with a controller, but it definitely is more fun and more involving. As you can see, as I go into corners, the wheel fights me. So just then, as I went onto the grass, I can feel that through the wheel, which is cool. The wheel allows you to feel the weight of the car through the corners, which is something you don't get with a controller. I'm going the wrong way. Buying a wheel won't make you good at racing games, trust me. Oh, I'm in last place. As you can see, even after getting this wheel, I still suck at racing games. But anyway, in conclusion, would I recommend the Logitech G920 as a beginner racing wheel? My answer is yes. For most people, this will be a great starting wheel. Even though it's 10 years old, it's still a very good wheel. And for most people getting into sim racing, I would definitely recommend this wheel. So what I'm going to say, for £200 with a shifter, there's not a lot else for this price. So I would definitely recommend this, or recommend considering this wheel. But the one thing I would say is try and find this wheel secondhand. I only paid £120 for this wheel and it's in pretty good condition. And because it's 10 years old, there's going to be loads on the used market. So for any beginners that want to get into sim racing, my recommendation would be looking on Facebook Marketplace or eBay and picking up a G920 secondhand. On the other hand, if you do want to pick this up brand new for £200, it's still a good deal. My argument for going with the G920 is definitely the price. So just for a price comparison, something like the Moser R5, which is considered a tier above this, that's an entry-level direct drive wheel. That thing costs about £450 and that doesn't even come with a shifter. So obviously that is a better wheel, but it's more than double the price of this thing. So for the price, I would definitely recommend the Logitech G920. So that's going to wrap up this video. As always, if you have enjoyed, be sure to drop us a like and consider subscribing. We've just hit 11,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. And let me know in the comments section below what your opinion is on the Logitech G920, and I'll see everyone in my next video.